Assalamu alaikum listeners, I'm Saad Tabani and you're watching Pitch Talk on Inspire FM. In this show we will be talking about the latest cricket news, and if you have any questions feel free to info on Inspire FM. So I'll just give you an overview of the topics I'll be discussing in this show. So I'll be talking about the Champions Trophy, the ICC Champions Trophy, which is being held in Pakistan and the UAE. We'll be talking about the semi-final matches which took place, the match between India and Australia, and the second semi-final yesterday, which took place yesterday in Lahore, the match between New Zealand and South Africa. Then we will also be discussing Pakistan cricket and the recent developments regarding Pakistan cricket. So many issues and even some controversies going on. We'll talk a bit about that as well. So first look at the semi-final matches. If I talk about the India vs Australia match, which took place the other day in Dubai, Australia batted first, and they had a good team, but they had to make a change at the top of the order, so they introduced an all-round spinner. So what they looked to do was bat first, and because in the match we saw it was a better batting wicket as compared to the previous matches which were held in Dubai, which were, I would say, more dominate for the spinners, and India, I would say in this match against Australia, it was probably the match where they struggled the most in their bowling, but at the same time they bowled very well. So looking at Australia's batting, they batted first and they scored 264. They got all out, and their captain, who has recently retired as well from ODI cricket, Steve Smith, he scored 73 runs off 96 balls, and Alex Carey scored 61 runs off 57 balls with the help of 8 boundaries and 1 6. And Travis Head scored 39 runs. And then if we were to look at the Indian bowling, I would say the spinners, as I mentioned, they weren't as aggressive, and they weren't they didn't dominate as much as they did in the previous matches, like the match against Pakistan or the match against New Zealand, where one of the spinners, Varun Chakravarti, took 5 wickets. Or if I talk about the match against Bangladesh, I'll say in this match against Australia, the spinners weren't at their best, and they went for economies of 4 and 5. But at the same time, I feel that because the pitch was more dominating for batting, I feel that that's where Australia took advantage, and where Australia did get to 260. But I'd say that because they lost wickets at crucial intervals, like Steve Smith, he got out at the wrong time. I mean, he got out to a in-dip Yorker by Mohammad Shami, and then Alex Carey getting out as well. If those two both scored at, I say if those two both scored more runs, and then I feel that Australia could have got to a target of 290, 300, and maybe there could have been a bit of a difference in the game. And then, as I mentioned, if you talk about India's bowling, their spinners were not as effective in the middle overs, but they still managed to bowl well, as their mystery spinner Varun Chakravarti took 2 wickets as he gave 49 runs in 10 overs, and Jadeja, their experienced campaigner, experienced all-rounder, he took 2 wickets and he gave 40 runs in 8 overs, with Akshar Patel and Hardik Pandya getting 1 wicket each. But the pick of the bowlers was their experienced fast bowler, who's been performing consistently for India over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Mohammad Shami, he took 3 wickets and he bowled 10 overs and he gave only 48 runs. So then if you this is how Australia got all out for 264, and after 50 overs, I feel that the score was not enough, because Australia could have made more runs. I would say they're like 30 to 40 runs short, and we saw that in the last 10 overs of the game as well. Then if we are to look at India's batting, their main players, their main batsmen, their match winners, Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill, they got off to a good start in the power play, and this is where I would say, however, Rohit Sharma was dropped twice, one by Manas and the other was by the new player Corner, but Rohit Sharma still managed to score 28 runs off 29 balls. And we've seen over the last few ICC tournaments, Rohit Sharma's role has mostly been to play impact knocks and some at times short cameos if I talk about the 2023 World Cup, he played some good impact knocks. His role is not to play as an anchor. His role is to play as an impact player who can give a good start for India, go aggressive against the bowlers, look to target the bowlers in the power play, the first 10 overs of the game. And Shubman Gill also got off to a good start, but then he got out for 8 runs. And then at one point India were 43 for 2, and it looked like that they were going to struggle. But then came Virat Kohli, their king, one of the best players of this generation. Again, in a clutch moment, in a big match, Virat Kohli turned up, scoring a magnificent 84 of 98 balls, with Shreyas Iyer scoring 45 of 62 balls. And then this was what got India to a good partnership. It's what got India into the game, and they progressed further while chasing the score. And then to finish the game was KL Rahul, his knock of 42 not out. Hardik Pandya scoring 28 with the help of 3 sixes. And even Akshar Patel, if I talk about his role throughout the tournament and even before the tournament, the way the utilization, the way India have used him properly at the top of the order and even with the ball, I feel that he's a very effective all-rounder for India. They use him at number 4 and number 5, and his ability to go aggressive against the spinners, against the fast bowlers, his use of going up and over, long on ability to hit the sweep shot and target spinners and be a bit proactive and at the same time aggressive at the crease is what has helped India in chasing scores down and even setting scores. And he played nicely for his 27 of 30 balls, and Hardik Pandya, as I mentioned, scored 28 with the help of 3 sixes. So with this, India did win the game convincingly. Did they win convincingly? Yes, they did win convincingly. But at one point you look, the game could have been close, but if Australia bowled a bit better, but at the end it came down to their batting. If their batting responded better, and if they scored 30 to 40 more runs, it could have made a significant difference in the outcome of the game. But in the end, India won, and India have got to yet another final. I mean, in the 2023 World Cup, they got to a final. The 2024 World T20, they got to a final and won the final. So India, even over the last 10 to 11 years, have been playing next level cricket in ICC tournaments. They always respond. They always get to either the semi-final or the final. So India have been superb in the execution, in the performances, and it all comes down to the domestic structure, the depth of talent, the pool of players. And I feel that if they never had their best bowler, Jasprit Bumrah, they still didn't give that as an excuse. How we see in other teams like Pakistan, they give excuse of players like not having Saim Ayub in the team. But in this case, they didn't give the excuse of Jasprit Bumrah, who is seen as one of the best bowlers in international cricket, if not the best bowler. So they did not give that as an excuse, and the spinners still executed their plans. And I feel that it comes down to their selectors and their captain. It was good planning and good execution. They knew they were playing in the UAE, so they knew that spinners were going to be more dominate. Were going to dominate more. So the spinners which they picked, Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel, Varun Chakravarti, they performed very well. If I talk about Varun Chakravarti, as I mentioned in the last match against New Zealand, he took 5 wickets. And I mean, he came in straight as a replacement for Harshit Rana, so he was probably a bit under the pump, but because he performed very well, the conditions suited him. That was what helped him in performing and taking wickets in the middle overs, which have been crucial. So then, with this, India won the game, and India got to the final. Unfortunately, the final will not be held in Lahore, so this was an disappointing end for the Pakistan cricket fans and Pakistan cricket, because the final was initially meant to be held in Lahore, but because the agreement was that if India get to the final, because India refused to play in Pakistan because of relevant issues such as security, and so the final will be held in Dubai, and New Zealand will also be in the final. So now talking about the second semi-final, New Zealand versus South Africa, which was held in Lahore. New Zealand batted first, and they scored 362, with the help of Kane Williamson and Rachin Ravindra. Kane Williamson scored 102 and Rachin Ravindra scored 108, and I'd say the difference which both of the players had was their strike rate was over 100, but at one point Kane Williamson's strike rate was 70, but his ability to accelerate at the right time was what helped New Zealand get to a good score of 362. And the Lahore pitch was a typical Lahore pitch in the first innings, and we saw that New Zealand's batsmen, they dominated in the initial first 10 overs as well, and especially even in the last 10 to 15 overs they dominated as well. With their mid-order players, Darren Mitchell and Glenn Phillips. I mean, if I talk about Glenn Phillips, he's really come of age in the last few 6 to 7 matches. He really shown his ability to target the bowlers and his ability to play at number 6 to 7 and finish the game at crucial moments where it matters the most. And his knock was superb as well. His knock of 40 odd where he scored, and then same thing with Darren Mitchell batting at number 4, scoring crucial 40 odd, getting New Zealand to 362, which was seen as a very good score, as we've seen in the Champions Trophy in one of the previous matches, which took place in the same venue between Australia and England. Australia chased 350 against England, so in the same ground. So we know that even 350 was not safe, but because New Zealand scored an extra 10 runs, and New Zealand also had the bowling to defend the score. So I feel that New Zealand had a good score on the board, and they, after the first 50 overs, they had the advantage. And then if you were to look at South Africa, in their 11 they made a blunder, big mistake by playing only one spinner. And we saw in the second innings how New Zealand spinners were dominative, and it showed how Pakistan made a big mistake on only picking one spinner, because South Africa only played one spinner, which was Keshav Maharaj. And South Africa's bank also collapsed as well. And if we talk about their fast bowlers, I mean, their fast bowlers went for plenty. Lingi Nagiri managed to take 3 wickets, but he only gave 72 runs. Marco Jansen gave 79 runs after 10 overs. He was expensive as well. And Kagiso Rabada, their main fast bowler, gave 70 runs and he only took 2 wickets. But when it came down to South Africa's batting, there are some good performances from Rassie van der Dussen and Themba Bavuma. I mean, his performance as captain was okay, but then we saw there was a bit of a change in the game as Mitchell Santner and the other spinners, Graham Phillips, Michael Bracewell, Rachin Ravindra, as they came to bowl. These spinners made a difference in the situation, in the impact on, and they create impact in the mid overs. As Mitchell Santner took 3 wickets, including the big wicket of Henrik Klaasen. So we noticed in the second innings there was turn and there was spin in the game. So I feel that this gave advantage to New Zealand because they have some good spinners. Mitchell Santner is probably one of the best spinners in white ball cricket. I mean, his performances in the last 5 to 6, 7 years in ICC tournaments has at times gone under the radar. Seeing as New Zealand have struggled to win ICC tournaments, but at the same time I feel that his performances, his ability to spin the ball, bowl with good control, have variation in his pace, is what has been very good for him. And if I talk about Glenn Phillips, his role as an all-rounder, in the first innings scoring a 40 odd with the bat, I mean playing with a striker of 181, and then also taking wickets for New Zealand, and Michael Bracewell also got 2 wickets with New Zealand, dominating in the middle overs as they've been doing, but at one point in the game we saw when Rassie van der Dussen and Themba Bavuma were batting, we saw that if they continued on, I feel that it could have been good for South Africa, and if they kept playing at a run rate of 5 to 6, keeping wickets in hand, this would have been an interesting game, to be honest. But losing wickets at crucial intervals, especially the wicket of Henrik Klaasen, as I mentioned, getting out to Mitchell Santner playing wrong shot, bad I'll say shot selection, and then came David Miller, who has been superb for South Africa at number 6 over the last 6, 7, 8 years. He scored a scintillating 100 of 67 balls, and at one point you felt South Africa were in the game, and South Africa were close to chasing, but I guess the score was too much for just one man, and one man alone, and it doesn't matter even if David Miller was on him by himself. He needed some support, or he needed someone to stay there till the end, and I feel that's where South Africa lacked, and South Africa yet again, probably for the 7th to 8th time or 9th time, they have choked in an ICC tournament. And as I mentioned, Glenn Phillips and Michael Bracewell took crucial wickets, with New Zealand winning by 50 runs. So we'll move on to the next topic, which we'll be talking about Pakistan cricket. They lost to New Zealand, they lost to India, they never got to play Bangladesh, and it was a very bad performance by Pakistan in the ICC Champions Trophy. There are many issues to talk about. The selection is a big issue. Not playing Sufyan Mukim as a second spinner, and then when you announce the squad for the New Zealand tour, you choose to play another spinner, Sufyan Mukim. In New Zealand, where the pitches are more dominating for fast bowlers, you choose to pick an extra spinner. But in Pakistan and Dubai, where the pitches are more helpful and they assist spinners more, you choose to only pick one main spinner, Abraham Ahmed. That's one issue. Batting is another issue. You need openers who can play with intent. Yes, Fahad Zaman and Sam Ayub were both injured, but why was Imam al-Haq sent as a replacement is beyond my understanding. You could have picked a young player, maybe someone like Hassan Nawaz or Muhammad Haris could have been selected. That's another issue. I'd say the Christian Shah's performance was very good, and maybe he can play good at number 6 or number 7. And there's so much issues in Pakistan cricket to talk about: structure, planning, game awareness. Lack of intent, lack of ability to play modern day cricket. And then there was a recent controversy which took place yesterday, where Jason Gillespie, Pakistan's former coach, who's coaching Pakistan, won a series in Australia, creating history, being Australia in Australia after a long time. I say that the controversy was that Aqib Javed was undermining him. Aqib Javed is Pakistan's head coach and selector for the Champions Trophy, and he's the head coach for the upcoming New Zealand tour. So he was undermining Gillespie and Gary Kirsten behind the scenes, and he said that he's been campaigning to become the head coach of the Pakistan team in all formats, and he also called him a clown. This is not the first time you see this in Pakistan cricket. These are so many issues in Pakistan cricket. Over the last 4 to 5 years, when you have coaches like Misbah al-Haq, no disrespect to these legends, coaches like Misbah al-Haq, coaches like Saklaim Mushtaq, who I say don't really push the players enough when it comes to discipline, when it comes to really giving the players a go. They just like to meet the demands of the players, which is why the players are comfortable playing under them, like Babar Rizwan Shaheen. I say there's over the last 4 to 5 years, there's so much player power in the Pakistan cricket team, which has been one of the reasons to the downfall of the Pakistan cricket team in ICC tournaments. I feel that if when you discard professional coaches like Gary Kirsten and Jason Gillespie, who come with a vision, who know how to build a structure, build planning, implement game plans, who know how to invest in young talent, young blood, when you're going to get rid of them and pick a coach like Aqib Javed, these local Pakistan coaches, they do so much politics, and it's what led to the downfall of Pakistan cricket. And if I talk about a certain individual who's in the PCB management over the last 4 to 5 years, who has been under the protection of the key players of the Pakistan cricket team, Cliff Deacon, who's the physiotherapist of the Pakistan cricket team. So many issues. If I talk about Shaheen Afridi, if I talk about Naseem Shah, if I talk about Sam Ayub and other issues, Fahad Zaman, these issues, their fitness issues, their injuries have been hidden because Diff Cleacon has a good relationship with the main players, with the star players of the Pakistan cricket team. Babar Azam, Mohammad Rizwan, Shadab Khan, Shaheen Afridi, Naseem Shah, Haris Roque. So this is why their injuries and their fitness issues have been hidden. So I think this has led to the downfall of Pakistan cricket. When you're not going to have professionals, I mean, I'll give a recent example. Last year, Mohammad Hafiz, Pakistan's former cricketer, also known as the Professor, when he was Pakistan director for the series of Australia series and the New Zealand series, I mean, when he was as the director, he implemented tough rules and tough discipline measures like fitness issues, no sleeping in the dressing rooms. I mean, when these are rules and regulations which should be in the dressing room and in the PCB, but then these players, instead of taking this as instead of taking it as a positive solution to ensuring that Pakistan cricket excels better in all three disciplines: batting, bowling, and fielding. These players chose to leak certain issues that out of to the media and to journalists. Like, for example, that director Mohammad Hafiz was too critical and too strict towards them, and this is one of the, and that he used to make reports on players like Imam al-Haq, who I agree that this was a good report that Mohammad Hafiz made, that Imam al-Haq leaked news outside the cricket board and giving news to journalists, and I feel that this is negative towards Pakistan cricket. It leaves a bad image and a bad taste to, and then why do you expect coaches to come to go to coach Pakistan, professional coaches from foreign coaches to coach Pakistan, when you're going to sack them too quickly, like the way you sack Gary Cast and Jason Gillespie, and you treat them in such bad manners when they are professional individuals who have high standards, who have game plans, who know how to execute their plans at the highest of stages. I mean, there was a plan that I was thinking in my mind, which I wish Pakistan could implement. Why not bring Owen Morgan as a director or a coach of the Pakistan Cricket Board? I'd say that you give him a pool of players, 50 to 60 pool of players. You give him those players, and out of those players, basically 50 to 60 domestic players as well. Out of those players, I'd say that you give him an option to build a pool of 20 to 25 players for the next 2 to 3 years, and back those players, back those talented individuals, support them in all formats. And players who refuse to play modern day cricket, players who say that want to play on their demands and want to play on their rules, I mean, just kick them out. And this even includes players like Babar, Rizwan, Shadab, Shaheen. If they don't want to play modern day cricket, if they don't want to play with intent, like we've seen over the last few series, they've not been playing with intent on modern day cricket, I mean, you can just take them out. No player is bigger than the game. You can invest more in your structure, bring better coaches, build high performance centres. You know what I mean? I was listening to Pakistan's former cricketer Shahid Afridi saying that when you have players, legendary batsmen like Mohammad Yusuf, like Javed Miandad, like Inzamam al-Haq, Yunus Khan, I mean, these Shahid Afridi described them as university centres, these players as university centres, because of their experience and knowledge, and because they have implemented their performances in the ground so many times in Pakistan. They've won matches. Pakistan performed consistently, scored hundreds, you name it, scored against different teams, scored in ICC tournaments. So I feel, why not use them with under 19 players? Why just pick Mohammad Yusuf for the New Zealand tour with the Pakistani players, with players like Babar Azam, who might not want to learn under Mohammad Yusuf, because there's a certain level of arrogance that I'm bigger than the game, I have so much money and everything. I feel like this is what led to the downfall, led to Pakistan cricket being hitting to rock bottom. And I feel that if you're going to invest in young blood, if you're going to build high performance centres, and in each high performance centre in Pakistan, I say build one in Lahore, build one in Karachi, build one in Islamabad, build one in Multan, and I say that for each put people like Mohammad Yusuf, people like Yunus Khan, and they can build, and they will have their own certain criteria for these young talented batsmen. And if these batsmen have fill the criteria, then select them in the Pakistan cricket team. I feel going forward, this is the measure, and this is what I say the PCB have to do in order to ensure that Pakistan cricket improves in batting, even in bowling. Look to include people like Waqar Yunus, Wasim Akram, and other good legendary fast bowlers. So this wraps up today's show on Pitch Talk. I'm sure you've learned a lot of knowledge about Pakistan cricket, about cricket in general, and how certain issues can have certain solutions as well, as I mentioned. So stay tuned for the latest cricket updates and discussions. Until next time, until I see you in the next show, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi